Everybody, welcome back to the table. Today we are taking a look at a new little California Legal Auto. This one I purchased from TacKnives. So it doesn't have a particular model name. It's called the BFS01, I believe. But this particular knife, it kind of struck a chord with me because it looked very reminiscent, very similar to another auto I already have, which is right here, the Boker Sub-Kalashnikov. So we can definitely see a family resemblance between these two knives. But this version sold by TacKnives is slightly upgraded, so we'll take a closer look at this one here. But for those of you who aren't aware, TacKnives, I'm not an expert on the brand at all. I just recently saw a video a couple of weeks ago by Cutlery Lover, and he was kind of advertising the brand. I'm sure he gets a kickback for, selling things through them. But they seem to be a US-based retailer, and they kind of specialize in automatic and OTF knives and Chinese-made ones. And so what they do is they bring them into the United States. They put their branding on the knife, TacKnives all over the knife, and then, of course, sell them here in the U.S. So people who want to try an inexpensive auto, they don't necessarily have to go shopping to AliExpress or DHgate or any of those, Chinese websites. So what we have right here, though, this knife struck a chord with me because, of course, the resemblance to the Boker. But what is really interesting about this knife is that there were a few upgrades they incorporated into the BFS01 here. And main thing, of course, you can tell right off the bat, these handles are titanium. So we can see it's kind of a nice bead blasted finish on the titanium here. They also incorporated a new lock into the knife. So the original Boker design did not have a safety on it, and this model here does. So that's kind of nice. And what we also see right here is an upgraded pocket clip. And now one thing that always kind of bothered me about this Boker design is the pocket clip itself. That design, it's kind of funky and wavy looking. It's easy to get in and out of pocket, but it just looks kind of oddball, whereas this pocket clip right here is sculpted titanium. So you can kind of see that. Still easy to get in and out of pocket. I'm not a huge fan of that big billboard on the pocket clip, but that's really the only branding that we have on the knife overall. Even on the blade is fairly sterile. Our front side here, show side, has nothing, but we can see it's a nice stone wash, which I like. And on the reverse, all we have is the steel marking. So we have an M390 blade. And of course, this is made in China. And so like all of the TacKnives offerings, this particular one, I'm sure if you look really hard, you can probably find it on AliExpress and probably for a lot less money too. But what you're getting when you buy it through a site like TacKnives is you get, of course, the fancy packaging. I'm sure they have some kind of a warranty service as well they would offer to buyers who purchase from them. As opposed if you buy a knife like this direct from China and you have issues with it, good luck, So when Cutlery Lover posted his video on TacKnives, there was like a 40% off coupon code or some crazy coupon code they had. And so that's kind of why I decided to take a shot with this website and check out this knife right here. So we can do some quick comparisons between the BFS01 and some other California Legal Autos on the table. But one thing that struck me curiously was the size of the knife. So we can see the size difference between the Boker Sub-Kalashnikov and the newer knife here. You can see the size, even though the shape looks like a copy. I mean, they increase the size a fair amount. So weight wise, it is a little bit heavier. So the knife here, this comes in at 2.7 ounces. So it's a little bit heavier than the Boker. You can see the thickness right there. The Boker's a little thicker just because the design of the scales. So the scales on the Boker are going to be aluminum here. And when you take a look at the blade, this is one thing that kind of struck me as curious out of the box. I wasn't sure if they just done goofed or not. But of course, this is a California Legal Auto, sub 2 inches. But look at the length of the blade. So the knife blade here on the TacKnives knife, it looks to me considerably longer, well, a little longer than 2 inches. So I don't know how they're measuring the blade, but let's take a quick look. So first, let's measure the Sub-Kalashnikov here. So I just have my little ruler. You can lay the blade up against it, and you can see that blade is definitely less than 2 inches long. And especially the sharp edge is less than 2 inches long. So let me, in the same manner, compare the blade of the TacKnives knife. So take a look at this. So I'm measuring it the same way, and you can see that cutting edge goes beyond 2 inches. And so it's more like 2 1/8, 2 1/4 inch blade. I guess it could be argued, you know, maybe the way they're measuring this metric is, let's lay it like this. So let's just lay the spine like that. We'll put the tip right at the front of the ruler. And I guess if you're measuring it this way, then the cutting edge is technically less than 2 inches. I don't know who measures the knife like that. And that being said, is there an industry standard for measuring the length of the blade? I know in my book, I tend to measure from tip to scale. So this dimension right here, you know, but maybe they just laid it flat and, you know, wanted to squeeze in that extra 1/8 of an inch on us. So really in comparison, that's what kind of confused me at first, holding these side by side. I wasn't aware it would be so much significantly larger than the Sub-Kalashnikov, which in every other world, that's actually kind of nice. So I do like having the larger oversized handle. It feels good in hand. So the quality of this knife is not put into question. We have a lanyard hole. We have titanium scales, titanium pocket clip, M390 blade. We have jimping along the top. It feels good in hand. There's no play in the action. Everything is nice and tight, and the action is nice and snappy. So the blade shoots right out, no problem. So we can compare this one, of course, with the Sub-Kalashnikov right here on the table. We also have the Kershaw Launch 4. So you can see these two side by side. And again, a little bit longer than the Launch 4. Look at the blade lengths again, getting a little bit closer. But I do like the color of the Launch 4. It'd be awesome to see these knives anodized too. But you can check those out side by side. We also do have some Protechs. And so Protechs make for some great comparisons. So this one here is the Runt 5, one of their newer models. But again, look at the side by side comparison. I like how the handle length is very similar, very reminiscent. And the Runt here uses aluminum handles. So thickness, of course, very nice. Deep carry clip versus sculpted clip. So really just whatever your preference is. And this one right here, the Calmigo, does make an interesting comparison because I never measured the blade on the Calmigo. Again, I take their word at it. But look at the blade length of the Calmigo versus the TacKnives. Very, very comparable. So really, is it 2 inches? Is it not 2 inches? Who's measuring? Who knows? But I do like that the handle length. One of the things I'll always tell you guys, the Calmigo here, this is probably the best California Legal Auto in my collection, without a doubt. Super high quality, super smooth, has a safety, has a deep carry clip. Highly recommended. But looking at the comparison between the two here, size-wise, they are very, very comparable to one another. So let's lay them all out flat on the table and give you an idea of sizes. I'll try to do pivot to pivot and give you an idea of the sizes of these knives. So take a look at those. And so these are just kind of a handful of my California Legal Autos that I own. The TacKnives knife itself, I think it's a nice knife. And honestly, if I saw this on AliExpress, I would be tempted to purchase it, but I probably wouldn't because, you know, when you buy things through there, you get the knife a month later, maybe. And if you have any issues, you're out of luck. But the fact that we have a US-based retailer selling them is a good thing. I am a little bit wary of how they decided to measure the knife, and even the overall dimension. I think they might have gotten off a little too, because by the same measurement, you can see the knife is, you know, almost 5.5 inches. And I think it was advertised as a bit less than that. What they did advertise correctly, though, is the weight of the knife. So this is 2.7 ounces as advertised. So I'm thinking they just were measuring it using a different standard than I've always had. And so I'm kind of curious to see if any other knives in my collection now are following from that same standard. Kind of interesting. But I will say before we go, TacKnives, they do sell, I did notice, they sell clones on their site. They actually sell a clone of the Microtech Exocet, and they call it the money clip knife, you know? And so again, they're buying these cheap clones overseas, bringing them here, stamping their name on it and selling them. So if you don't want to support the clone industry, don't go to TacKnives' site. I only bought this one here because while it does appear to be a copy of the Boker, it's not exactly identical one-to-one. And of course, I would feel bad if, next year Boker releases this essential same knife. But I did want to make the comparison, at least for the purposes of the video and for the purposes of adding this knife to my collection. However, I will not be buying any Microtech clones because those are obvious. Like, come on, like this isn't an obvious clone or copy. It's more inspired by. And whereas if you buy a Microtech Exocet clone, you can tell it's a copy. So if you don't want to support that, don't buy from TacKnives. They do always have some sort of coupon, it seems. So this one right here, 20% off, and 20% off. Their prices are fairly higher than you would pay on AliExpress for the same knife. And so that's, of course, what you're getting is the quicker delivery, the nice packaging, and hopefully the warranty that goes with it. They did include an extra coil spring. So I guess if the knife here ever had issues, you could replace that on your own. But I just wanted to share this with you. And I'm sure when Cutlery Lover posted his video on TacKnives, he probably got a good kickback from all the people who used his coupon code. I am not in any way sponsored by them. So go ahead and look through their site if you care to. And if anything looks interesting, you can go ahead and buy it. But probably be aware, the knife could be a clone. It could be much cheaper available if you're willing to wait the time from China, ordering it through another site. But I do appreciate, again, the service they're offering by making it so that I can buy this knife and then within a week it's in my mailbox, so that's kind of nice. Only thing I would change with this knife is take that logo off of the pocket clip, put it anywhere else, even on the blade would be fine. But this is the most visible part of the knife when you're carrying it, and you're kind of just advertising for them, free advertising, billboarding. Hope you all have a nice day, everybody. If this was interesting, drop a comment below. Would love to hear your thoughts on the TacKnives BFS01. See you later.